1 second, mate. There we go. And we are live. So happy Thursday, everybody. Hope the weather's nice and the sun is shining where you are. Today we've got the awesome Mr. Des Dowling on the interview. Des is kindly taking 20 minutes out of his day to share his experience, having worked with us in the 1% in one of our programs called The Collective. By my account, Des has absolutely smashed it, but I want you to hear from the horse's mouth because that's more important. Before we kick off, Des, do you want to introduce yourself, who you are, what do you do?
Yeah, Des Dowling. I work in London as a commercial director for an advertising company. Small family down here in Surrey, originally from Australia. My wife's English, so been over here for quite a few years. Yeah, that's it.
Nice. So busy man, lots on, family, you know, the usual, right?
The usuals, yeah.
So I think will be helpful. Let's rewind a few months into the past. I think you'd followed me and seen a few of my bits and bobs on Instagram for a little bit, Des.
That was it, yeah.
Yeah. You decided to reach out and have a chat. What was going on back then that made you decide to reach out to somebody like me, a coach? You know, what was happening?
I think what really resonated with me in some of your Instagram sort of shorts and stuff like that was your down-to-earth approach. So effectively, straight away I felt there was no sort of nonsense, so no sort of hype or nonsense in your approach. That struck home to me. From a personal point of view, I just felt that everything that usually comes with life in terms of a job, in terms of trying to find time to do the job, to be a husband, to be a father, to get exercise in, to have a mental positivity to your life. I wasn't finding that balance. I was in one sense, I was being successful in one area, not being successful in other areas. And I wanted to sort of bring that success balance or that positivity across all of those sort of streams in my life. And I think that's why, your program sort of resonated. And once we started to talk about it, I could really see some of the benefits I could get out of it.
And I think what you're describing there, Des, not to belittle your situation back when we spoke, but I think it's a very common narrative. And with the gents I work with and we talk about, and it's like working really hard, want to be successful, want to provide for the family and the career getting pushed hard and doing well in that. But then that often comes at a cost of your own personal, physical and mental well-being. And then there's a byproduct. You feel like you're not showing up as best you can in the other areas of life. I mean, I talk about 5 pillars: self, body, business, family, relationship. And often those other pillars can end up getting neglected. It's not through any malice or you being a prick or whatever. It's just it's like life, work, overwhelming, and it can get a bit much. And I think, like you say, redressing that balance is kind of often where you want to be, but like you sort of said, it sort of kind of starts with looking at yourself, right?
And quite often you'll overcompensate in one of those areas, and I think that's where I saw the need to bring in some help, just to sort of, it's much like mentoring, it's coaching, it's all of those things. It's bringing you a perspective on how to bring some balance across those things, priorities, acceptance. These are some of the things I got out of the programs: the acceptance of how you operate in life, some resilience, and getting a framework together.
Well, let's dig into kind of like what you've achieved having come into the program in a sec. But before we do that, like when you first reached out, what would you say was kind of your biggest sort of frustration or struggle with your situation as it was?
I think it was my over-reliance on my work. Mm-hmm. That was my sole source of personal wealth, so to speak. Yeah. And I knew that wasn't right. I knew that judging my week and my success and my well-being on work just wasn't a good metric to sort of be judging my life by.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, it's important, right? I mean, none of us and the guys I work with, you don't want to go and live in a cave, right? You want to be successful, you want to have pride in what you do, you want to achieve, and also want to provide for your family and everyone else. All of those things are true. But if that starts to be the only metric, and then it is at the detriment to those other things, and when we get older, we grow up, we've got more responsibilities, well, then that becomes a bit more tenuous, because when you're in your early 20s, you can get your head down, grind your ass out. It doesn't really matter, you know. It's okay. You've got less things going on.
It's just
When
you.
you've got
Yeah.
wife, kids, all the rest of it, older parents, all the list goes on. Well, then if you're going double hard in that area, but there isn't much thought or focus on any other areas, then that's where I think that's kind of feeling of like, what's it all about? I'm a bit lost, because you sort of
Definitely, yeah.
you lose focus on the other things that are important. It's not that that isn't important. It's not that we want to ignore that. It's just it's not and can't be the only thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like a lot of other people, no doubt, who do this program as well, you have other areas of your life that you have concentrated on before in the past, you know, be that exercise, be that sport, be that study, be that whatever development sort of work you've done, be that, you know, with your wife or your girlfriend or your partner. You've done those things, but some of them have fallen by the wayside because of the priority that you've given to something else in your life.
Well, let's fast forward then to where we are today. Des, feet on the floor, you know, we've now come through the process. What would you say have been your key successes and achievements now, having come through the program?
I think, you know, usually I could see when someone's asked that question after coming out of a program, it had usually been, you know, I've lost that much weight, I've done, you know, and it'll be exercise based. And I think the great thing about this program was it wasn't just the losing weight aspect that I found. You know, if you want to put that into sort of figures, you know, 10 kg done, you know, over 10 centimeters sort of off my waist, you know, all of those results are there. But I think what I found, some of the best results I got out of it was it's this framework that I now have around my life and how I operate into it. You know, when you talked about exercise, diet, mindset, and then you put over the top of that this umbrella of ownership, I've become a lot better at that ownership aspect across all those different points. I own my responsibility across those now. I plan across those things now. And of course, I think one of the great things I found, I mentioned resilience before, but there's a real acceptance in this program. You've got to accept that you've got to change your life. And then with that acceptance comes some resilience, because you start to see the results. From week 1, 2, and 3, you'll get results. They'll be there. You'll be like, yeah, right. Okay, I can see this working now. And it's not, the beauty of it is the way you've designed this is it's those small little incremental changes that you're putting into our lives that you kind of don't know are happening, but they really are. And then you get to week 3 and you're like, great, this is actually showing some of the results here, and not only physically, but mentally.
And I think the mental thing, there's a few parts to it. But like you were saying there about the ownership piece, Des, because as I'm sure you'd agree, it's not me just shouting at you to do stuff, because that's
No, exactly.
like, but you taking ownership. Well, if before when we started, there's lots of little commitments that you aren't making. When I get up in the morning, I'm not going to play on my phone. I'm going to be there for my daughter and wife. You're not. When you get to work, you're not going to procrastinate on that report, and you're going to have that difficult conversation. You don't. When I come in, I'm going to not be on my phone. You do. And I'm not just saying you. I'm talking about the royal you. Yeah. I'm not going to have a bottle of wine tonight, but you do. There are loads of little commitments to yourself that you are not keeping. And for self-esteem and confidence, that doesn't feel good. Now, if we flip that on its head and we start making those small, what's doing a little bit of exercise first thing in the morning got to do with me having a better mindset? Well, boom, well done me. Boom, well done me. Boom, well done me. And you just keep building that up.
Yeah.
For me, that builds up momentum. And I think it speaks to what you're saying there around the ownership and the incremental progress. Because even in 3 weeks, you're like, fucking hell, I've done quite a lot here, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that you've hit the nail on the head, because it's going to bed at night and you've literally taken off not just one thing, you're ticking off about 2, 3, 4 things. And that's the self-motivation. And equally, what I found was super valuable was this being able to give yourself a break. You're not going to fit it into every day. That's fine. Okay, how do I fit it into the rest of the week? And it's almost like I remember commenting to someone else who was on the program, because you have that interaction with other people. I needed to find little cheats around my own sort of self sabotage, like, I know it sounds stupid, but when I first started it, I used to start my sit-ups when I was lying in bed before I even got out of bed, just so I got it going.
Yeah.
And that really worked for me. But it got to a point where, yeah, you get out of bed. I have about a meter of space between the bed and the wall. That's where I used to do my exercises. So you don't have to have everything in place. It's literally learning how to just fit this stuff into your day.
And what you said earlier, you said about, you said you built up a level of resilience, and I think resilience is just that. It's recognizing, well, given what I've been presented with in life, what's just happening today. Like I just said to you before we started, my middle daughter, she's ill. That's the impact of what we can do. Well, what am I do? Fuck everything? No. there's so much you can do, but the way we operate is we've got this one way we think. And if there isn't that, it's all gone wrong. It's like, no. And something I say a lot, I even use it on my social media, but it's like, someone goes, I didn't have time to exercise this morning. Could you not do 5 push-ups when you get out of bed? And everyone goes, but it's true. So, but 5 push-ups over 7 days, that's 35 push-ups you wouldn't have fucking done. It's better than 0 push-ups. And it's less about the push-up, really. It's more the self-esteem to go, I'm the sort of person that will do something no matter what, and I can make it work for me. And that's, I think, just a much more high-agency, positive framework to sort of live your life by, right?
And I think that's why it is so adaptable and flexible. But it's not so flexible as if you start to really sort of drop off.
Yeah.
I think that's there's a real ownership here. And I think it's that comment that you always make, it's a not negotiable.
Yeah.
And if you tell yourself that in your own mind, you stop negotiating with yourself.
Yeah.
And you just get the shit done.
Yeah. And I think that there is the power, but it's the what is the principle that's non-negotiable here? So, for example, barring, let's say I do some exercise every morning. That's one. Yeah. Right? Let's say that's the non-negotiable. There's so much variance there, depending on what life's hitting you with. Like it could be an hour and a half in a gym. It could be 5 push-ups on the floor. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's such a range there, and it's like, well, if the non-negotiable is I make myself move every morning because it's super important for my physical health, my mental well-being, and all the rest of it. Well, then you give yourself that range. That's possible, and that's the thing. That's the kind of the flexibility. And it's like, well, and then there's the with the non-negotiable. Okay, I'm seriously sick. Can I? No. Okay, fine then. You're not a piece of shit. You can't do that today, and that's also okay.
And that's also what I saw in the program, that there was longevity here for me. There was, I could see that it wasn't just the program. I could see this was just going to easily transfer into a habit into my life, which it has. Every morning when I can, I'm doing it. The cold shower, love it. It's a real wake up. It's still part of my life. It's like, I think everyone talks about little changes and turning them into habits, that sort of mindset. And I think that's what this program was able to do. And when you think about a program and you think about results and you think about, okay, how does this work? I did it over Christmas, and it was the first Christmas you remember us saying, it's the first Christmas in my life I've lost weight. And I didn't purposely go to Christmas thinking I'm not going to eat anything. Like, I enjoyed myself.
Well, I think I said to most of the guys in the program, and not everyone, but I'd say a good 80% of gents who joined the program, weight and a physical change is part of what we do, right? But we said, the whole thing's holistic, and it's about this as well. But I generally say to guys over the Christmas period, trying to lose weight is a fucking stupid idea. Like if we can just keep everything going in a good equilibrium, that's it. And so the fact that you're saying, well, you weren't really actively trying with any of it, and you did. I mean, that just speaks to
exactly.
How have these things in place. It can serve you well, right?
Yeah, and it's these pillars that sort of go into place that stay in place. They're not hard to stay in place, and I think that's the assets that you kind of get out of the program. Because if I look forward now, it's not a case of this is what I do when I'm home and I'm working. This is a case now that I can do this on holidays. I can do this where, if I'm traveling for work, I can do it. It's not okay, this is an exercise program that you have to put in on a Wednesday, a Monday and a Friday. It's like, this is your everyday life. How are you going to change your mindset? How are you going to change your ownership to get your diet, your exercise, your mental work? And that's the balance that it kind of brings to your life.
And I'm so glad that's the impact that it has. and that what you're describing there, because that's my intention and point behind it. You know, I a lot of the calls when I chat to guys, you'll see with me, it's me going, right, it's not as bad as you think, calm down. You know, like,
Yes.
and I think because of the content, and I talk about discipline a lot, I think sometimes with a coaching interaction, you think it's going to be like very drill sergeant, and like I think it's about being fair and honest. And so it's like, you know, is that behavior serving you? What you do, and you need to unpick these things. It's not just saying do the fucking burpees, idiot, because that doesn't help anyone. But a lot of the time, it's helping someone see that they've got more agency and autonomy within their situation than they think. And so it's like, oh, this is the thing that I do. Okay, I can't do that. Well, then I can't do anything. It's like, no, that's not
exactly.
the case. And it's just be able to show, and that's on any level, right? You know, so it's like, okay, so I want to eat a healthy lunch at lunchtime, right? But I've got to take clients out. Okay, well, do you have to have 3 courses? Yes. Well, and then that's an open question, do you? I mean, so it's like, if you want to, you can make a choice. You know, I must drink every time I take clients out. Who says?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not saying you have to be detailed, but like, who says? You can, and so it's just challenging those assumptions, and maybe sometimes there's certain clients you have to, and others you don't. I'm just using that as an example, but it's like showing.
No, it's a good example too, because they are really, when you face up to them, they're just assumptions. You know, I used to think that I had to have a drink after work to sort of calm down a bit and relax, but you know, after I decided, okay, I'm going to designate a day, 1 day a week to have a drink, and that was my Sunday. The other days just fell away, and I found other ways to sort of relax after work. You know, the 10,000 steps. You know, getting out for a walk during the day, that was a game changer as well. So there's assumptions, and then you challenge those assumptions, and you see exactly what you said. Okay, I don't actually have to do that.
Yeah, and sometimes, like the other part, and it's like we already said, and this is where the resilience comes in, and you're great at this, is that, well, this has happened, okay, and so then what do we do about it? And sometimes, you know, it's about lowering the bar. It's like, well, okay, well, you know, because I've got a super late deadline and both my kids are sick and then my missus is away traveling, that's going to have an impact, and it's going to massively impact what you can do. That doesn't make you a piece of shit, bad person, horrible. It's like, okay,
no, exactly.
And I think it's recognizing that. And it's because a lot of the guys I work with are quite focused and driven. It's like, oh, well, I couldn't do that, and that. No, you couldn't. And what? You couldn't. That's okay. Tomorrow you can, probably, when your wife's back and one of the kids is back to school. Well, there you can. So, but then what in that acute situation can you do? Well, I can only do that, and that. Well, in that scenario, that is the best you can do. But then tomorrow, it's not one way or nothing, you know?
No, exactly. And I think it's an honest approach that you've taken, and the way that you coach as well. I think that, you know, what resonated with me at the beginning was brought to bear. You know, you're down to earth. You take an approach that's just realistic. It's born out of the fact that every day everyone's got a different challenge they're going to have to deal with, and it could be from all facets of your life, or it could be from one, as you say. I think that the ability to calm yourself down a bit and go, well, okay, I couldn't do that today. I can get it done at another point. I think it's that acceptance and that calmness that you just go, right, okay, yeah, it's okay. I'm fine. I'm not falling off the wagon here. I'm not getting out of the program.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I think it's recognizing there isn't a wagon, right?
Yes.
Wagon, right?
Yeah.
And I think moving away from this binary way of thinking, either I'm doing something or I'm not doing something.
Yeah, that's it.
So it's that or nothing, and it's like, well, no. And I'm talking about all levels. This could be just as basic as getting up out of your bed and doing some exercise, or it's like how you think, how you show up, being present, not playing on your phone, whatever. But like, and even if something's gone quote unquote wrong or something's happened, it's like, well, okay, well, what can we learn from that? Well, then now, the next minute we can change that. Just because that's happened,
exactly. It's just your choice.
Yeah, don't pull the metaphorical grenade out and throw it.
Yes, exactly.
There's other things you can do. Well, Des, that's been super, super helpful and insightful, I think. One question for you, a bit of a curveball, but nothing scary. Like, what would you say? Well, actually, let's this first. What would you say has been your biggest takeaway from the whole process? If you look at the whole sort of things holistically, you know, sitting here today, what would you say has been the biggest learning or takeaway from it?
I think there's a takeaway and there's a benefit. I think the biggest benefit has been the framework, right? It's almost like I know how to operate in the different facets of my life now. It's not work is be all and end all. The importance of my work and what I do at work hasn't gone away. That's still there. It's just how I balance my energy into work with other things that I do. I think the benefit from the program, or the takeaway from the program, sorry, has definitely been I just feel better about myself in terms of it's not only diet, exercise, and what we talked about, establishing that framework. There's a lot of the mental work that goes on as well. I really enjoyed the hero shadow work. That brought out a lot of understanding for me about how I approach things. So yeah, I think I'm taking away a lot more in terms of the mental stuff. I think the benefits I got from the program are more physical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because I think the mental side of things, that deeper look and a better understanding of yourself, it's a bit more esoteric, and it's harder to kind of like to 10 inches off your waist, sorry, 10 centimeters off your waist, 10 inches off your waist or whatever, or 10 inches off across the board, 10 kilos, like that's really measurable, easy to understand, right? And that's
exactly.
But like I've got calmer peace of mind, I'm more present with my family, like that's very, very subjective, but you know that you feel that, right? And also I've now got a better understanding of how I operate and how I see situations. Like it's not as easy as I lost 10 kilos. but like for me, that's what I get more of a buzz at when I talk to people. And like I say, like what we like to do is have those things like the inches dropping and the 10 kilos happening. That's just as a nice byproduct of you getting on and living your life and understanding yourself better and doing the work, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to just see it in one area of your life, going through the program. You just start to tick off these other little bits. Sorry, they're not even little bits. You start to tick off these major areas, and you start to understand, actually, I am delivering across different facets of my life. I haven't, I've moved myself away from concentrating on one area.
Well, again, thank you, Des. It's been really helpful.
Thank you, Luke.
Really insightful. I guess final question for you before we get off. Let's say someone's watching this. Maybe they've seen some of my bits of content. Feeling like you were a few months back, a little bit lost, not sure what to do, kind of on the fence with reaching out for help, but also kind of knows that there's something going on. What would you say to somebody like that?
I think if you've got to where you've got to, you would have invested time, energy, or money in other elements to try to improve yourself, because that's probably why what you're talking about is resonating with them already. I would say invest in this, because the investment is understanding how these little changes can improve not just one area of your life, but probably about 5 or 6 aspects of your life. And it's the investment now, but I know over the next year to 2 to 3 years, I'm going to look at that investment and go, actually, that makes sense to me now over the last 3 years. It's almost like, you can go out and get a gym membership, nothing wrong with that. But effectively, it's not going to serve you across every aspect of your life. Whereas it's probably going to, over 3 years, be the same sort of investment.
Yeah, totally. Well, thank you, mate. That's a ringing endorsement if ever there was one, so appreciate it. If anyone is watching this, they're interested in having a chat, would like to reach out for any help, drop me a DM or find me a comment. Otherwise, Des, you're a legend. Love you to bits. I really appreciate the time for you.
Thanks, mate.
I think anyone watching
really appreciate it.
So thank you. And all the best for now, gents. Thank you. Take care. Cheers.